You've tuned into another edition of The Break Room, a weekly conversation about how the City of St. Augustine works from those who do the work every day. Hosted by the City of St. Augustine's Communications Director, Melissa Whistle, The Break Room offers a closer look at the different city departments and provides updates on current and upcoming projects and events. And now, your host, Melissa Whistle.
Welcome to The Break Room. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Melissa Whistle, Communications Director for the City of St. Augustine. This week, I'm sharing the break room with Pat McCaulley. He is the St. Augustine Police Department Commander of the Patrol Division. Pat, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks. Glad to be here again.
And I'm going to say welcome back. And in the same breath, I hear word on the street is that you are retiring.
Right.
So This is your final appearance on the break room.
A few more days, right.
How long have you been with the department?
I've been here in St. Augustine with the police department for a little over 27 years, about 27 and a half years. Yeah.
And were you always in law enforcement?
I had 2 years prior to St. Augustine in a little city in Central Florida called Maitland Police Department. I started there in 1992, worked there for 2 years. So, yeah, I'll be just shy of 30 years.
And law enforcement, some people feel like it's a calling. Some people get introduced to it somewhat haphazardly. How did you find yourself in law enforcement?
I was in college and I didn't really have a direction. And, when you're in college, you take a lot of electives, and I took an introduction to criminology class.
Okay.
And had a good teacher. He was a retired FBI fella, and it really just kind of hit me, and I thought, that's what I want to do.
And you had visions of, CSI, Law and Order, Blue Bloods, or... Well, I mean, did you have an expectation?
Back then it was, it wasn't what you're saying, but it was more like Hardy Boys and Sherlock Holmes. And I read, it sounds corny, but I read a lot of those books and had those stories as my background. And so I got into law enforcement, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a detective. And so...
But that's where that stuff comes from.
Right.
You read about something and you go, wow, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. And so it just kind of clicked with me, and I took an interest in it. Yeah.
And detective versus patrol officer, obviously there's a clear difference. Do you start out as a detective?
No. You start out on the road as a patrol officer, and detective is, at least in our agency, it's different for some other agencies, but in our agency, it's a lateral movement. And so you have to work on the road for a certain number of years to gain that experience. And then if a position comes open in the investigation division, you put in for it and you interview with the sergeant and some other people, and hopefully you get picked. And I was fortunate that I did, yeah.
When you talk about patrol officer, if we could talk about that a little bit, everybody starts out in patrol. How do you get started? I mean, does everybody want to go be a patrol officer or detective, or everybody has to start there, at least in this agency?
Right.
Okay.
And that's the way it typically is around most agencies. You start off as a patrol officer. You go through the police academy, and there's a long background investigation that you go through. And then when you get hired, you start out as patrol, handling calls for service, and getting used to handling incidents and dealing with people. You have to be able to deal with people.
Kind of have to understand the business.
Of course.
Even just like in any job, you got to start at the bottom.
That's right. Yeah.
What kind of, when you talking about patrol in our city, are we a pretty safe city by most standards?
Yeah, we really are. We have lots and lots of people here, as you know, and they generate calls for service. We stay busy, but as far as violent crime, robberies, and, homicides and things like that, we don't have very many of them, thank goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
We do see some, but it certainly isn't that we're in a high crime rate area. What's it like now? I mean, 27 and a half years, I'm sure you've seen some changes in the industry, as it were.
There's so many changes, of course, technology and equipment has changed immensely. Those, and that's really the easy thing to say. It's always technology, and because that advances so quickly.
Body cameras.
Yep, body cameras.
Is that even anything anybody ever talked about? Like early on, was it like, oh, would that
no,
be? No,
never.
Didn't even think about it.
There wasn't even, businesses didn't have cameras, homes didn't have camera systems, so things like that have certainly advanced. But I'll tell you, one of the most profound changes that I've seen is how busy police have gotten. I can remember working on the island on midnight shift and not getting a single call for service all night, and there wouldn't be a soul out. But that's changed. We stay busy all the time now. People call the police for all kinds of things, and it's not just law enforcement,
Right.
We don't just, actual law enforcement probably isn't very much of the job.
Right. Well, we have a lot of programs. We have outreach. We deal with the homeless. We have school officers. What are some of the things that you've seen when you're talking about the busyness of officers? We do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, we've got, officers have to be, life coaches now and marriage counselors, and you got to be mediators between neighbors and things like that. And our agency has the outreach program where we have 2 officers and whose sole job is to monitor and take care of the homeless. They give a homeless person a ride to the pharmacy to pick up a prescription or make sure that they meet a doctor's appointment. That and that's their sole job. And so, and it's not just that; it's just things like that. We get called because somebody's child won't eat breakfast, or there's a snake in the garage, or
Right.
some neighbor's got a tree limb that's hanging over my yard and
Right.
dropping leaves in my yard. So we have to be able to deal with all kinds of different dilemmas.
And we have a presence in schools. Now,
Right,
I
we've
know
got school resource officer.
I always think of the sheriff's office for some reason, but maybe that's also because my son was in a school outside of the city limits. But we're in the schools,
right,
building
we've got,
those relationships.
Our RB Hunt and Ketterlinus, we have officers in both of those schools, and they have their own set of problems there that's not law enforcement related. They have to deal with the kids and parents that don't get their kids dropped off in school in time, and who's coming into the school and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Do you see the relationship building though benefiting from all of this sort of change of responsibility, busyness that these officers?
Yeah, I think we're becoming more entrenched in the community and involved with people more often.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're just now tuning in, you're listening to The Break Room. I'm Melissa Whistle, Communications Director for the City of St. Augustine, and I'm speaking with Pat McCaulley. He is the commander of the Patrol Division for the St. Augustine Police Department, getting ready to retire. Congratulations on your pending retirement.
Thank you.
I did want to ask you, so we don't know yet who will be filling your shoes. Can we talk a little bit about what it takes to become an officer, and what will the process be of them finding your replacement within the agency?
Right. There's a test. It's a tested position. So around the middle of April or so, there'll be a test that's given out. Only a certain number of people are qualified to take the test for the position. You have to have held the rank of sergeant for at least a year. And so if an officer or one of our members of our agency has that rank and has been that rank for a year, then they have a desire, then they sign up for the test. Yeah.
Sure. Do we accept? We accept applications from outside.
Yes, for police officers.
Okay.
Sure, yep.
Excellent. And if I wanted to become a police officer, you and I were talking about this. Are you seeing an increase in applications to become police officers, or an increase in people wanting to go to the academy?
Not really. Actually, it's been a decrease, but I would say that, the caveat I would say is that, around the country as a whole, the police don't have a great reputation,
Sure.
and some communities don't trust the police. And I would liken it to, after 9/11, when people joined the military and knowing that they were going to be going out to a war overseas. And now people are getting into police work knowing that they might be going into a community where they're not well received, and yet they still apply to become police. So although the number of police officers people going into the academy is down, I would say the quality of person that we're getting is higher, because those people are the ones that are really set in their mind that I want to make a difference and I want to reach this community and become entrenched in the community.
So kind of seeing the crisis and wanting to make a change for the better.
Still want to come in, yeah, right.
Does it take a long time to become a police officer?
It does. That's a hindrance to us sometimes. This generation nowadays is right here, right now. But you have to go through the police academy, which takes months. Takes months to do that. And there has to be an extensive background, by whatever agency you apply with. And if you apply with more than one agency, then you're doing lots of different interviews. So there's a background investigation, and then if you make it through that, there's interview process. There's some psychological testing, some drug testing. And then that's just to get into the agency. Once you're in the agency, there's a whole nother, program. We call it the Field Training Officer Program, the FTO. And that takes, ours is 16 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's a long time.
And so if I go to the academy, I pass, or I am successful at the academy and I apply to be a police officer, what does that field training look like? Am I guaranteed a position? And what if I change my mind? Is that also an opportunity for folks to say, maybe it's not quite the Hardy Boys.
No.
It's not quite CSI
Yeah. No, you get hired by the agency, and once you're into the FTO program, you go through, at least in our agency, it's a couple weeks. There's 2 weeks classroom where you have to do some mandatory training and things like that. And then you go out with an FTO, your field training officer, and there's several different officers that you will ride with. The theory being that you get a lot of different looks at, the way things are done with different officers. And during that time, you're kind of gauging yourself, and the department is gauging you on how well you are going to be doing this job. And not everybody makes it. Some people get out there and think, well, this is not what I thought it was.
Right.
And they take themselves out of the program,
right.
Or we look at them and say, you're just not doing what we thought you were going to be able to do, and we let them go.
Right. And we've got some good people coming on board. We're almost out of time, but you guys have a great agency.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're really proud of it. We've got a number of people that are in the program right now that will be coming out in the next month or so. And we've got some openings that are coming up where we're going to be doing interviews. But yeah, the quality of people that we are hiring has improved over the years, and we are getting lots of good people.
Well, and we're glad to have had you for the 27 and a half years that you've been with us.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your retirement, and I hope you're enjoying your time off.
Thank you very much.
As we wrap up another edition of The Break Room, I hope we answered your questions. If we didn't, take a minute and drop an email to info@citysanog.com. Remember that in order to stay connected, you need to be connected. You'll find the police department on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @SaNogPD. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.
You've been listening to The Break Room, a weekly program addressing projects and programs offered by the City of St. Augustine. Join us each week as the city's communications director, Melissa Whistle, has in-depth conversations with the people who make our town work to meet the needs of our community. The Break Room is produced by communications specialist for the City of St. Augustine, Cindy Walker. See you at this time next week for another edition of The Break Room.